Padme was alone in her chambers on Coruscant, sitting before the large window that revealed the golden horizon of the capital city. Tears streamed down her face as her hand lightly caressed her belly, feeling the presence of her unborn children. Her heart was torn between hope and fear. Anakin was far away, confined to the Jedi Council, and she could sense that something terrible was approaching. The silence of the room only increased the pain she carried in her chest, as if destiny itself were about to shatter. She thought of Anakin, the last time she had seen him, the way he had looked at her with a mixture of tenderness and suppressed anger. "Anakin, where are you now?" she whispered softly. Deep down, she knew something was happening. The movements in the Senate, the tensions in the Jedi Council, everything seemed about to explode. And yet, she couldn't help but wish he were there by her side, to hold her and promise her that everything would be all right. Suddenly, the air in the room changed. A different sensation enveloped her, as if reality had expanded beyond her comprehension. Padme looked up, and before her appeared a luminous figure, enveloped in a serene glow, with the firm features of a Jedi Master who had been at her side when she met Anakin. "Padme," said the deep, calm voice. It was Qui-Gon Jinn projected as a Force specter. Startled, Padme put her hand to her chest. "But, how can I see you?" Qui-Gon approached slowly, with the serenity of one who had already anticipated the question. "You see me because of the children you carry. Your son's midichlorians already shine brightly in your womb, and through him, the Force opens your eyes to me. He is the link between us." Padme, still in shock, put her hand on her belly and felt the tears return, now mixed with a strange hope. Padme instinctively recoiled, frightened, but at the same time fascinated. "I came because time is short, and because your son is in danger." His words echoed through the room, shattering any illusion of safety she still harbored. "Danger? No, Anakin will protect him. He always promised me that," Padme replied, her voice trembling but firm. Qui-Gon walked slowly toward her, even as a specter, imposing an undeniable presence. "Anakin cannot protect him now. He is torn, and the shadows have already closed in on him. You cannot stay here." The words hit Padme like an invisible blow, but she shook her head, denying it. "I can't leave, not now. He needs me. If I leave, I'll be abandoning him when he needs me most," Padme exclaimed, her voice heavy with pain. Qui-Gon kept his gaze steady, but now with more intensity, as if speaking an uncompromising truth. "If you stay, you will lose not only him, but also your son. He will not have his mother by his side. And Anakin, he is already being pulled into something you cannot control." Tears streamed down Padme's face again. "But where would I go?" she asked, as if pleading. Qui-Gon replied with immediate clarity. "Alderaan, Bail Organa is your ally. He will offer shelter and safety. It is the only place where you and your son will be safe from what is about to happen." The tone of his voice left no room for doubt. It was the advice of someone who knew the future better than she could ever imagine. "I don't want to leave Anakin," she repeated, now almost in whispers, like a lost child. Qui-Gon moved closer, his presence almost touching hers. "You won't be leaving him. You'll be giving him a chance. If your son and you survive, there will be hope for him too. But if you stay, there will be nothing left to save." Padme shuddered at the spirit's frankness, feeling the weight of the dilemma that was forming. She turned to the window, looking out at the vastness of Coruscant. The ships cut through the sky, indifferent to the drama unfolding in her heart. Deep down, she knew Qui-Gon was right. Still, her soul cried out for Anakin's presence. "He is my husband, the father of my child. How can I leave him now when he is in danger?" she asked, her voice breaking. Qui-Gon took a deep breath and replied with the same unchanging calm. "True love is not standing by destruction. It is ensuring that the life you have created can flourish. Choose to live, Padme. Choose to give your son the chance to grow up with you by his side. That is the only way to save what remains of Anakin." His words echoed powerfully within her, forcing her to face reality. Padme closed her eyes, She knew what she had to do, even though it was the most difficult decision of her life. "What if I go, and he never forgives me?" she asked as a last appeal. Qui-Gon looked at her firmly, his eyes reflecting compassion and wisdom. "If his destiny is to be saved, it will be by the child you bring into the world. Not by your words today, but by the legacy he will carry tomorrow." Silence fell again, broken only by the tears streaming down Padme's face. Finally, she turned away, wiping her eyes. The pain was still there, but determination was beginning to take shape. "Very well, Alderaan, Bail Organa. If this is the only way, I will go." Qui-Gon nodded serenely. "You have made the right choice, Padme. And remember, the Force will always be with you and your child." As he said this, his form began to fade, leaving her alone again. But now, in place of uncertainty, there was a decision. Padme could still hear Qui-Gon's words echoing inside her. The ghost had warned her that her only chance of survival was to leave Coruscant immediately. She didn't understand the full weight of that, but she knew that death was lurking, and that if she stayed, she would never have the strength to escape. The memory of Anakin burned in her mind, but her instincts now told her that her life was in danger. She got up, wiped away her tears, and made the decision to seek out Bail Organa. Meanwhile, in the Jedi Council chamber, Anakin remained alone. The silence suffocated him, as if every shadow in the room whispered Padme's name. He couldn't bear to wait any longer. His heart beat with rage and despair until he stood up and walked quickly out. The guards saw him pass with heavy steps. He knew exactly where he was going, the Chancellor's building. Destiny called him to a point of no return. Padme found Bail Organa in one of the Senate corridors. She approached him with her face marked by tears, but her voice was firm. "Bail, I need your help now. I can't stay in Coruscant." The senator led her to a more private room. "What's going on, Padme? Why the desperation?" She hesitated but spoke. "I feel that if I stay, I won't see tomorrow. I need to go to Alderaan with you." Bail stared at her silently, understanding the weight of those words. "Alderaan will be open to you. No one will dare to suspect. But leaving now means leaving everything behind." Padme nodded, determined. "If I don't do this, there may be nothing left behind. I need to save myself." Organa did not insist, but simply placed his hand on her shoulder. "Then come. I will prepare the ship immediately." In the Chancellor's building, Mace Windu's purple lightsaber crossed paths with Palpatine's red one. Sparks lit up the dark hall, and Force lightning ricocheted off the windows. Anakin entered the fray, his heart torn between Windu's orders and Palpatine's promises. "Stay out of this, Skywalker!" Windu shouted, forcing his enemy back. Palpatine replied in a desperate voice, "Only I can save her. You know that." Anakin trembled, unable to choose. His gaze shifted between the Jedi Master and the Chancellor. In his heart, a single image emerged. Padme dying, screaming for help. In a sudden movement, he raised his saber and attacked Windu, cutting off his hand. The Master staggered, helpless, before being consumed by Palpatine's lightning bolts. The scream echoed through the city, sealing the fate of the Jedi Order. Meanwhile, Bail hurried Padme through the corridors to the hangar. She kept her hood over her head, her steps quick, but her heart was bleeding. "If Anakin finds out I'm gone," Bail interrupted her. "If you stay, you will lose yourself. Alderaan is the only way out now." Padme clenched her fist, repeating Qui-Gon's words in her mind. It was the most bitter choice of her life. Kneeling before Palpatine, Anakin heard the words that would mark him forever. "Rise, Lord Vader." His breathing was heavy, his eyes burning with rage. The promise to save Padme had cost him his soul. Soon, he was marching through the streets of Coruscant alongside the clone troops, heading for the Jedi Temple. The silence of his footsteps was the harbinger of the darkest night the Order had ever experienced. The temple doors opened. Children looked at him with hope. "Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?" Anakin activated his blue lightsaber. The blade's glow illuminated the innocent faces, but the answer was a massacre. Screams echoed through every corridor, and the fire of war consumed the sanctuary. The chosen one of prophecy had become the executioner of his own guardians. At that very moment, Baal's ship rose into the skies above Coruscant. Padme, sitting next to the hatch, watched the city lights recede. Tears streamed down her face. "Anakin?" she whispered, not knowing if she would ever see him again. Baal, at her side, remained silent. There were no words that could comfort her pain, but deep down he knew this escape would change the future. In the Senate, Palpatine spoke like a hero. "The Jedi tried to assassinate me. Only I survived to protect the Republic." The audience applauded, blind and manipulated. Beside him, Anakin stood motionless, the shadow of a lost man, now named Darth Vader. Padme was not there to hear those words, but she could feel them in her heart. This was no longer the husband she had known. The ship jumped into hyperspace, leaving Coruscant behind. Padme touched her belly, seeking courage. "I will survive. Nothing will stop me from fighting for my life. Maybe one day Anakin will wake up and see what he has lost. But until then, I will remain standing." Baal gave her a steady look. "You are not alone, Padme. Alderaan will be your refuge." She closed her eyes, allowing the pain to turn into determination. The journey to Alderaan was long and silent. Padme stared at the starry immensity, carrying a mixture of fear and hope in her heart. As soon as the ship landed, a sharp pain struck her, causing her to hold her belly with both hands. Baal rushed toward her, frightened. "She's in labor. Take her now," he shouted to the guards and doctors waiting in the hangar. Fate had decided that her children would be born at that moment. Padme was taken to an isolated wing of the palace, protected from prying eyes. The local doctors began preparations in a hurry, while Baal remained by her side. With each contraction, she called out Anakin's name, wishing he were by her side. "Hang in there, Padme. You'll survive. And so will they," Baal said, trying to convey a serenity he did not feel. Her cry spread through the corridors, heralding the beginning of a new era. In the space above Alderaan, patrol ships kept watch, disguising their secret movements. Baal knew that any suspicion could attract the Empire. While awaiting the birth, he sent a coded message. "Kenobi, Master Yoda, Padme is alive. She is on Alderaan. Come in secret." The senator erased all traces immediately afterward. It was a huge risk, but he knew she would need strong allies. The effort finally brought life. A baby's cry filled the room, and Padme cried along with it, overcome with emotion. "It's a boy," announced the doctor, handing her the child. "Luke," Padme whispered, hugging him tenderly. But before she could rest, another violent contraction overwhelmed her. She screamed in pain, and the doctors rushed back. Baal looked on in disbelief. "There are two," he murmured. Padme, exhausted, widened her eyes. 2 minutes later, another cry filled the air. "It's a girl," announced the doctor, handing the child to Baal, who immediately placed her in her mother's arms. Padme, her eyes brimming with tears, looked at the two little ones. "Luke and Leia," she said softly, almost in disbelief. The weight of her decision to flee now made sense. Her children were alive, and so was she. That was the answer to her pain. While Padme got to know her children, Obi-Wan and Yoda traveled discreetly to Alderaan, following Baal's call. The little master kept his eyes closed during the hyperspace jump. Obi-Wan took a deep breath. "If Padme is alive, then there is still hope. But I fear what Anakin has become." Yoda just muttered, "Shadows in him are. Search for her, he will." In Coruscant, Anakin walked, distraught. He had carried out Palpatine's order, exterminating the Separatists, but something was missing. "Padme should be here," he repeated, staring into the emptiness of the dock, the obsession already consuming him. Finding her would be his new mission. "I will search for her, and no one will stop me." Back on Alderaan, Padme rested exhausted, but held Luke and Leia in her arms. Bail entered the room and watched her silently. "You survived, Padme, and so did they. It's a miracle." She smiled weakly, but there was determination in her eyes. "I will live. My children will grow up with me. No matter what the Empire does, I will resist." Bail nodded, respectful of the strength she showed. In the Senate, Palpatine consolidated the birth of the Empire. At his side, Anakin remained silent as a hunting dog. But his mind was not on politics, it was on Padme. "She's in hiding, but I'll find her," he muttered to himself. The Emperor noticed his obsession and decided to use it. "Find her, Lord Vader. If she's alive, she can only be with the Jedi." Padme, even without knowing of Anakin's complete transformation, believed there was still a way back. "He is their father," Bail would say. Organa, although he did not share the same faith, never contradicted her. "For now, just think about surviving. That's what matters." He reinforced security and kept the births a secret. Anakin, meanwhile, had already set out in search of her. With each system he passed through, his fury grew. "I will find her," he repeated to himself, his lightsaber resting at his side. But the more he searched, the further he strayed from who he once was. What sought her now was something different, driven only by shadow. Anakin had crossed entire systems, guided only by the Force and the obsession that consumed him. Nothing could hide Padme from him. Not Bail, not the Jedi, not even the distance between the stars. When his ship cut through the skies of Alderaan, the heart of the planet trembled. He descended from the iron corridors with heavy steps, his black cloak swaying behind him. The Chosen One, now Lord Vader, had found the secret refuge of the one he loved most, and the one who drove him mad. The doors of the royal palace burst open in explosions of energy. Guards tried to react, but were thrown against the walls like dolls. Bail Organa rushed into the main hall, trying to prevent the tragedy. "You can't be here," he shouted. But Anakin just raised his hand and lifted him by the neck, choking him with the Force. "You deceived me, Senator. Where is Padme?" he yelled, his eyes burning with hatred. "Let him go, Anakin." The firm voice cut through the air as Obi-Wan entered, his blue lightsaber illuminating the hall. Yoda appeared right behind him, leaning on his staff but with a sharp gaze. "Darkness in you, I see, but save yourself, you still can." Bail was thrown to the floor, coughing, while Anakin stared at his former masters. "You came here to take her from me, but you won't succeed. None of you will stop me." Obi-Wan advanced, keeping his lightsaber in a defensive position. "You don't have to do this, Anakin. There's still time." The former apprentice growled, igniting his red lightsaber. "Don't call me that. I am more powerful than both of you combined." Tension exploded as the three launched into combat, and the palace hall became a stage of destruction. The sound of sabers echoed like thunder. Obi-Wan fought with precision, each movement calculated to contain his enemy's fury. Yoda spun swiftly, using his agility to attack from unexpected angles. Anakin responded with brutality, each blow laden with rage, attempting to crush both masters at once. The Force vibrated in waves of violence, cracking the ground beneath their feet. "I have the power to end you," Anakin shouted, pressing Obi-Wan against a column. The Master replied firmly, "You no longer fight for love, Anakin. You only fight against yourself." Vader's gaze filled with hatred, and he charged even harder. Yoda intercepted with a leap, spinning his green blade. "Blinded by fear, you are. Losing, you will." The battle intensified, but the advantage was not on Anakin's side. Even with his extraordinary strength, the experience of two masters cornered him. Obi-Wan blocked a blow and slid, slightly injuring his enemy's arm. Vader roared in pain, redoubling his violence, but he was already beginning to feel the weight of exhaustion. The entire hall shook with the fury unleashed. Despite his rage, Anakin's movements became erratic. Obi-Wan noticed the weakness and looked into the eyes of his former apprentice. "You cannot win, Anakin. Not against us." Vader responded with more hatred, pushing his body beyond its limits. "You underestimate my power." But with each blow, defeat drew nearer. It was then that a darker presence invaded the hall. A chill ran through the air as slow footsteps echoed through the entrance. Palpatine appeared, wrapped in his black cloak, his yellow eyes glowing. "Enough," he said, his voice laden with power. The duel ceased for a moment, everyone turning to the new visitor. And he was not alone. Behind him, under the guard of Imperial soldiers, Padme appeared in the corridors, pale and exhausted. In her arms, wrapped in cloth, were Luke and Leia. Anakin's heart raced. "Padme," he murmured, staggering a few steps forward. Palpatine smiled, as if he had prepared for this moment. "Now we are all together. The father, the mother, and the heirs to the galaxy." Obi-Wan clenched his fist. Yoda closed his eyes in concentration. Padme hugged her children tightly, staring at Anakin in despair. The hall fell into absolute silence, broken only by the Emperor's low laughter. The battle was not yet decided, but fate had brought everyone together under the same roof, and darkness was about to engulf Alderaan. The entire hall was silent when Palpatine brought Padme in the arms of Imperial soldiers. She was pale, exhausted, but alive, protecting Luke and Leia close to her chest. Anakin stopped fighting and stood still, his eyes fixed on that sight. At first, he stared at Padme, and hatred, anger, and pain still consumed him. But when his eyes fell on his children, something inside him broke. The darkness that imprisoned him began to recede, as if the twins' innocence illuminated every shadow. Obi-Wan and Yoda noticed the change. Vader's gaze was no longer the same. The fury gave way to a different, almost forgotten glow. Padme, with tears in her eyes, just whispered, "Anakin." Palpatine, confident, didn't notice. He walked up to his apprentice, smiling. "Look, Lord Vader, your family, your destiny is here by my side. Together, nothing can stop you." Anakin walked toward Palpatine, his eyes still filled with the fury of the dark side. The red saber trembled in his hand, and his breathing was heavy, as if anger were the only thing keeping him on his feet. But then, for a moment, his eyes shifted away from Padme and rested on the small faces of Luke and Leia. It was as if time had stopped. The innocence of his children pierced the darkness like a ray of light. The hatred that consumed his heart began to dissipate, and the rage that dominated his muscles weakened. Anakin's eyes widened, and the yellow glow of the dark side faded until only blue remained. Vader's weight fell away like broken armor, and Anakin Skywalker breathed again as himself, freed. Each beat of his children's hearts was like a call from the Force, reminding him of who he truly was. Padme saw the change and whispered with tears in her eyes, "You're back." Anakin moved slowly closer. The saber still trembled in his hands. The Emperor opened his arms, as if welcoming him back. "Together we will shape the future. She and the children will live as property of the Empire." Those words were the final spark. What Palpatine saw as a promise, Anakin felt as a sentence of eternal slavery. He fell to his knees before Palpatine, bowing his head like a servant. The Emperor smiled, certain of his absolute submission. But then, in an instant, Anakin raised his face, and his eyes no longer glowed yellow. The blue had returned pure as before. With a cry, he activated his lightsaber and struck Palpatine with all the force that flowed through his body. The hall was filled with light and the Emperor's screams. Rays of energy shot from his hands and exploded in all directions, cracking the ceiling and illuminating the faces of Padme and their children. Palpatine tried to resist, but Anakin's redeemed fury was greater. "Never again!" he shouted, pushing his enemy into the abyss of the hall. The Sith's body fell, enveloped in his own power, disappearing into the darkness he himself had created. Silence returned, heavy, almost sacred. Anakin fell to his knees, exhausted, the lightsaber fading in his hand. Padme ran to him, still protecting their children. "You're back," she said, touching his face gently. He stared at her, tears streaming down his face. "I almost lost them, but you brought me back." Luke and Leia slept peacefully in their mother's arms, as if they had fulfilled a destiny they did not even understand. Obi-Wan approached slowly, without his lightsaber. He looked at his friend, not his enemy. "Anakin, you have made your choice." The young Jedi raised his eyes, tired but clear. "I am Anakin Skywalker. I always have been, and I will never be anything else." Yoda, leaning on his staff, murmured, "The prophecy is fulfilled. The chosen one, the balance brought." Bail Organa, still catching his breath, watched the scene. The senator understood that the galaxy had changed in that instant. The Empire had lost its leader, and hope rose from the ashes of war. "Perhaps now we have a chance to rebuild what has been destroyed," he said firmly. Padme nodded, looking at her children. "They will grow up free. That will be our victory." Anakin embraced his wife and children, and in that moment he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Not the false promise of power, not the hatred that had consumed him, but the serenity of having chosen love. As Luke and Leia breathed quietly, everyone knew that the future of the galaxy was being born there, in the heart of a family that had survived the darkness. The wind from the mountains of Alderaan blew through the broken windows, carrying away the smoke of battle. The Empire still existed, but its throne was empty. And in the center of the hall, Anakin Skywalker stood again, not as a servant, not as a tyrant, but as the man who had conquered himself. The galaxy's new hope shone in the eyes of his children.